Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning, Mike.
Tom, we've been doing a sequence the last few weeks over This Means You, and now we have a follow-on sequence addressing the most commonly used phrase whenever we're dealing with families engaged in the long-term care system, and that is, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and that's just not true. And in the long-term care world, there's always a more positive option to go from doing nothing to having a positive outcome.
And yet there's a reinforcement out there, and that reinforcement is whether it be government agencies, discharge planners, nursing home administrator types, lawyers, CPAs. Everybody's heard it's illegal to transfer assets within 5 years of going to a nursing home, and yet we do it every day. It is not illegal, and there's no limitations on transfers between husband and wife.
Yeah, they've not locked us up yet, and unfortunately that myth out there keeps families from protecting themselves, and it's particularly important for the healthy spouse at home, because if they're blowing through 10, 15 grand a month in nursing home costs, that's impacting their quality of life.
They're directly compromising their future security, because as we know in the Medicaid system, for all practical purposes, it's not going to pay for in-home services. It's never going to pay for a cottage or an apartment. Right. In some instances in Maryland, it might pay for assisted living, but that program has a huge waiting list. It virtually never works. So Medicaid is primarily a nursing home program. So you don't want to be expending costs on one spouse's nursing home expenses, because the other spouse is going to need that money in order to take care of themselves.
Right, and that's probably a good general rule in thinking about the use of wealth, is that most of these services are not covered by some state agency. So giving away does not solve the problem. But there are techniques you employ for scenarios of nursing home admissions where we can protect everything.
Well, that perception that there's nothing you can do causes spouses, husband and wives, to give away resources when they don't need to do it. They give it away because if they hear somebody say you need to keep it, they think it's been consigned to oblivion at the nursing home, which is just absolutely not true.
Exactly. And so if you've given it up, it's no better than if you had spent it on nursing home care. You're still losing resources that go to the quality of your care.
And so one of the great challenges is there's two sets of rules. We'll be talking about single person rules in the coming weeks, but the reality is for married couples, the law is designed to protect them. And so the reality is all of these amateur strategies, and many times based on the horror stories that I've heard, have nothing to do with married couple rules. It has to do with single person rules, which are not applicable while you're still married.
Oh, exactly. And if you're following the single people rules as a married couple, you're just tripping yourself up and incurring penalties and problems where you don't need to do that.
So when people say there's nothing you can do, people hear, my spouse is in the nursing home, I'm at home, the nursing home's going to get my house.
Well, not if we can help it. And it never happens if you do it right.
It doesn't happen if you do it right.
Exactly.
The nursing home's going to get all of my money.
Not if you do it right.
And if my spouse checks into the nursing home, I'm required to sign over my house to the nursing home.
Absolutely not. And that would be almost a violation of federal law. So you need to know what your rights are.
And people think every day that these things happen automatically, and it's just almost impossible to get them off of these preconceived notions. Right. And so part of what we've done in terms of our practice area is just focus. When somebody's told you there's nothing you can do, they're wrong. There's almost always something you can do, and the outcome will be better than listening to that.
hey, it's better than 15 grand a month in nursing home cost every day.
And so first of all, the call to action in married couple cases almost always occurs after you have basic documents in place, does not occur until one spouse has been admitted to the nursing home.
Yeah, and that's the good point, because most people are not going to be admitted. So you wait till there's actually a crisis, and then we deal with it.
In the meantime, people say, well, you have to do all this amateur junk so that you don't have a problem. So they put kids' names on the house. The kid has a divorce. The kid has a creditor problem. Kid dies before you. You have just totally fouled up the title to your house.
Yeah, oftentimes those are the bigger risks than a nursing home admission. So when you do that stuff, you got to be thinking, well, what are my real risks here?
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Michael Piercy, Director, Washington County Department of Social Services. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
You know, when we talk about Washington County Department of Social Services, it's a statewide regulation, so most of the stuff we're talking about is relevant to every county that's watching this, and frankly, the Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia's are also very similar. As you guys are all trying to approach some very difficult issues that involves really a seismic change in the population. We're dealing with dramatically older people. We're dealing with afflictions that were not the same afflictions we were dealing with 50 years ago. Diverse populations living all over the place, and you're there as a support organization.
Absolutely. So, you know, to that end, Governor Hogan has made a hallmark of his administration two important pillars. One is serving the aged, the disabled, and the children, what are considered vulnerable populations, and developing a gold standard of customer service. And so one thing that he has really led us into during these last 2 years is the long-term care process. This is where you're trying to get either a relative or help an elderly individual into a nursing home, and then there's an enormous amount of paperwork that goes into that. So to that end, Secretary Padilla has led the fight to modernize what's a huge amount of paperwork and turn it into an electronic system. So we now have in 4 counties already, Howard, Hartford, Carroll, and Frederick, an electronic system called E&E, which is eligibility and enrollment. And as a component of that, they have what's called the AVS, Asset Verification System, which helps applicants go out and get electronic records so that it will streamline the process of helping those folks get into these nursing homes.
And of course, it's a very challenging process. But I also find one of the interesting things when you mention the Department of Social Services and dealing with vulnerable adults, there's also a certain accountability of the Department of Social Services. I don't see any other agency, and you say, what do you mean? You as the director are actually accountable to a local board, as opposed to almost every other government agency. They don't respond to local boards.
Absolutely. I have my own board of directors that I have to respond to. I'm accountable to the county commissioners as well as to the elected officials in Annapolis. So I have 3 layers of government, and that's all besides the executive branch, which I report to, which is the Secretary of the Department of Human Services as well as the Governor's office.
And I think that accountability is important. You know, you just can't go hide in the corner and not deal with the local citizenry.
Absolutely. And that's something that I think Governor Hogan has instilled in all of us, that essentially, you know, if we were a corporation, you'd be the shareholders. The citizens of Washington County are the shareholders for my job, and I need to be accountable to them, and I'm answerable to them.
And I think one of the great things you've mentioned is a new program, which I have been complaining about for quite some time, is these senior apartment complexes have no services attached to it, and it's a recipe for a person to be in a meltdown. And I know that you guys are trying to, you know, within limited resources, try to help keep that from happening.
We are. There's a new program called the Maryland Senior Call Check. And so it's absolutely free. It's a new program that's rolled out throughout the state of Maryland, where you can sign up online or call in to the Department of Aging, and you can get a call. If you're over 65, regardless of your income, you can have somebody call you 2 or 3 times a day to check up on you. And after 2 or 3 calls, if you don't respond, they're going to call an individual whom you've identified as an emergency contact. So it's a great way. Many of our seniors have trouble at times with hygiene. If they go to the bathroom and slip and fall, well, who's going to check on them? And frankly, I'm going to put this out there, home invasions with the elderly. That's a growing problem. So these are ways to ensure their safety, as well as their well-being.
And of course, one of the things that your staff tells me all the time is everybody worries about abuse, but most of the abuse is self-neglect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially with those individuals, you know, I've heard that the golden years are laced with lead. You know, unfortunately, sometimes the body isn't quite what it used to be. Slip and fall is a little more dangerous at 75 than it was at 15 years of age. So we want to be able to wrap ourselves and our families around with an extra layer of security.
And it just goes back to the old saying, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if you can try to catch some of these things as they're starting to slip down that slope, you can substantially reduce both the inconvenience to the person and the costs associated with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mike, as always, thanks for appearing on our show. How could somebody call and find out what's available?
Sure. So for the long-term care, if they call 240-420-2100, that's the Department of Social Services. If they're interested in the Maryland Senior Care Check, that is 1-800-243-3425.
Call the local office. You'll get them directed every place they need to go.
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Ma'am, give me a good push.
Hang on, just 1 minute.
Ma'am, I need you to push right now.
Honey, you really need to push.
It's time.
Just hold on a minute.
No, right now. One push, ma'am. One push.
Just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Susan Dwyer, Education Coordinator, Alzheimer's Association, Maryland, Greater Maryland chapter. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
So did I pass my mini competency test?
You did pretty well. Yes, you did.
You know, I love the Alzheimer's Association. We've been involved with them in our firm for many years, and it's a recognition that, you know, while the disease, it's affecting people, it also has effect on the family, the support persons, and so forth. And so your organization, tell us a little bit about some of the educational functions that you provide.
Well, we in the Western Maryland area, we have Memory Cafe, which is a social experience for people with early stage dementia and their care partners. And we also have support groups, from early stage support groups to support groups at other levels. Our early stage, actually the patient with the diagnosis can come and get an opportunity to be with other people going through the same thing and talk about it. And I also offer educational programs on a core curriculum, from the basics of dementia to communication and understanding behavior, and offer that free in the community.
And your background is as a social worker?
Yes, I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
And part of what we have here is many times when families are addressing somebody with dementia, it's their first rodeo. They're trying to invent the wheel on how to deal with this stuff. And part of what the Alzheimer's Association does is provide support and education on how to coexist with the disease.
Absolutely, absolutely. There in Maryland, we have right now 110,000 Marylanders diagnosed, and we'd like to reach all of them. So by your having me out here, we can let people know about our services, and it's hard to know how to get the word out. So I really appreciate being here, because we want people to get the help they need.
And those support groups are regularly scheduled with people coming in and facilitating, oftentimes bringing people in that have levels of expertise, and it's not a cost factor for people who want to participate.
That's right. We have a few programs that have a low cost. We also offer art programs. That's a low cost program we've offered in the area, so the care partner and the person with the diagnosis can experience something together that's fun and keeps their mind active. And we've had music programs that have been fabulous, but the majority of our programs are free, including a care consultation that will come out to a person's home and meet with them and assess their needs.
And part of what people need to take into account is, you know, a great deal of support is for those caregivers, because in reality, you know, the disease is going to have its own progression, but those caregivers need to learn how to manage it.
Absolutely. Across the nation, I believe we're talking about 16 million caregivers. So caregivers are really the people we also want to help. It's a lot to know to be successful as a caregiver or a care partner, and we want to help them. We have a helpline 24/7 that people can call and get help round the clock.
Now tell us a little bit about that helpline.
The helpline is staffed by professionals. The number, I don't know if you can scroll it for us, but I believe it's 800-272-3900. And at that helpline, a person can call in the middle of the night and say, I don't know what to do. My loved one is wandering around the house and keeps trying to get out the front door. Can you tell me what to do?
All right, now you have to support this. So we're going to bring up some pictures here, because one of your great opportunities here for support involves what?
Well, our biggest fundraiser is our Walk to End Alzheimer's, and that fundraiser really is what is funding all these fabulous programs, and also funds the research that we do nationally as the second biggest funder of research, next to the U.S. government.
All right, and so what does a walk entail?
So the walk,
when's the one in Frederick?
Our closest walk is Sunday, October 14th at Frederick's Keys Stadium, which is called Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. And we'll start there and then take a fabulous walk, 2 different routes along Carroll Creek.
All right, and so what do people do? Do they get teams, or what do they do?
Absolutely. People can join a team, create their own team, and if they raise $100, they get a t-shirt for the walk day, And our teams are fabulous, from assisted livings and people all over the community.
Looks like people are having some fun here.
It sure is fun.
Okay, and I see a bunch of t-shirts that all look the same.
That's right, $100 and up, and people get all kinds of fabulous fun things, but the t-shirt is a great thing to earn with your fundraising.
All right, and because you are not-for-profit, not government-sponsored, you also have to raise a few bucks in order to provide these services.
Absolutely. To provide what we do in education and programming, we really need people to back us, and that research has been really important. A lot of people heard the latest, came out a couple weeks ago from our international conference.
All right, and what's your phone number?
Our phone number, again, is that 800 number, the 800-272-3900.
Susan, I want to thank you for taking time to appear on our program.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
The Community Foundation strives to be a forward-thinking organization.
We are assessing needs, working with donors to see things differently,
so that Frederick County can be its best. It's a wonderful place for all of us to live, work, and play.
We look forward to addressing the future needs of the community.
Visit frederickcountygives.org and learn how you can start to see things differently too.
Albright, Crumbacker, Mal & Itel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services, including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Pete Alexander, a partner in the regional accounting firm of Albright, Crumbacker, Mal & Itel, with offices in Hagerstown, Martinsburg, West Virginia. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Great to be here, Mike.
Well, you know, Pete, we're all trying to figure out what this 2018 tax law is going to look like, so let's talk about it from a retiree perspective.
So you're telling me there's a new tax law out there?
Well, I heard something about that. So let's talk about, you know, obviously many people in the past would have itemized their deductions based upon certain charitable and other types of expenses. There's probably going to be a lesser number of people doing that going forward.
Yeah, before the itemized deduction, you just had to clear a standard deduction of, call it $12,600 or so. If you cleared that, you were better off itemizing. When you itemized before, you got your itemized deductions, and then you got your personal exemption. You got an exemption for husband and an exemption for wife, which was around $4,600 each. So before, a couple over the age of 65, if they did not itemize, they were getting around $23,000 of deductions. If they were itemizing, they were getting their itemized deductions plus 9.
That was their individual.
That was their personal exemptions. Now we've gotten rid of any deduction for your personal exemption.
So you no longer exist.
You no longer exist. Yes, you no longer exist. But you get a much higher standard deduction, which for a married couple, both over the age of 65, is $26,600.
So a little bit more then.
Yeah, so if you weren't itemizing before, and you don't itemize now, you're getting $3,300 more deduction. But let's say you were itemizing before with $20,000 of itemized deductions, then you add that $9,000 personal exemption on there. You were getting $29,000 before, and you're only going to get, because you're going to take the standard, you're only going to get $26,600 now. So it is somewhat complicated. But that does mean a lot more people will not be bothering to itemize unless they employ some tax strategies.
And part of what we want to talk about as we're heading through the last quarter of the year here is the beginning. The tax plan, the final tax plan for 2018 begins now.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do things, as we've talked about on previous shows, other than health savings accounts, which people on Medicare aren't eligible for, and IRA contributions, which people that do not have earned income are not eligible for. Other than those two items, there's really not much you can do after the year ends to affect the previous year's tax returns. At that point, it's just throwing numbers on a phone on a form and cranking them through.
All right, now as we look at this stuff though, one of the things that there are some strategic advantages. So a person who might not have enough deductions for itemizing, but had a pattern of making reasonably substantial charitable gifts, might look at making both 2018 and 2019 charitable gifts in the last quarter of this year, and then not making any in 2019.
Yeah, take an example, a taxpayer that makes $15,000 charitable a year, and let's say their real estate tax and their state income tax is $5,000. That real estate and charitable is 20 grand together. The state tax, the real estate tax, the charitable is 20. Well, if they do that all in 1 year, they're not going to be able to itemize. If they hold their charity to the next year, and instead of doing 15 that next year, they do 30, then they're going to have their state tax, their real estate tax, and their 30 grand. So they're then going to get a deduction. So they could end up itemizing every other year by doing a little bit of planning.
So in this case, to make it simple, so you'd not only make the 2018 $15,000 gift, you'd make the 2019 $15,000 gift in December, and then you would have enough to itemize for 2018.
Right, and then you wouldn't make a gift for 2019. Same cash flow, you'd just be spraying it out to maximize your tax benefits.
One of the other things that's become permanent in the tax law is an indirect way to get a tax deduction for charitable gifts is if you have an IRA and you're required to take distributions, or you're choosing to take distributions, you can have them paid directly to the charity and not have to recognize the income, which is a form of getting a deduction.
Yes, we now have that permanent. We've had that for the last decade. It is now permanent. What it does two things. It means that when you have it, the income doesn't even hit page 1 of your tax return. So instead of increasing your adjusted gross income, which also could decrease your medical deductions, could increase your Medicare withholding on your Social Security. It's like it never happened.
So you can just give it directly to the charity through your IRA.
Right, the IRA gives it to the charity and it washes out on your return, but it does have some other benefits.
Pete, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
Great to be here, Mike.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.